I became that guy. I was drinking, 18, 19 years old, drinking every day, getting kicked out of, establishments, catching felonies, breaking into cars, and I used to like justify it as like, I'm just an adrenaline junkie when I drink. And really, I had no care for anybody. I was super selfish, egotistical, didn't have any problems. And if everyone else would just relax and just back off a little bit, it'll just kind of play itself out and I'll just be normal. And I was pretty much locked up from the time I was 18 in this revolving door of institutions and jails, treatment centers, detox, homeless shelters until I was 31. And then I was squatting in this apartment. Been to AA, been to NA, been to Smart Recovery, tried Celebrate Recovery, tried a variety of churches, tried, white knuckling it, tried, if I just had the right girl, if I would just be a better dad, if I just be more present, if I tried different ways of drinking, if I take trazodone, like 1,000 milligrams of trazodone before I drink, I'll only drink a little bit and then I'll just go to sleep, right? Like I tried every imaginable remedy of like trying to control and enjoy my drinking, that it just utterly failed, because I just eventually this craving inside me would just unleash, and I couldn't control it, and I didn't want to, because when I controlled it I didn't have fun, and when I had fun I definitely was not controlling it. And so I was just kind of this, I don't even know what you call it, just like this twilight zone of I couldn't imagine living sober, and I couldn't imagine not, being drunk, right? And so I thought about suicide more times sober than I ever did drinking. And I think that for a long time, drinking prevented me from committing suicide, because it provided just a little bit of relief for me. And so for me, what happened was when I was 31, I was squatting in this apartment. I just got fired from my job doing sales for this tech company, and hadn't showered in, there was no reason not to shower. I just didn't. Like I just lost all just the want to do anything, so I wasn't showering. I didn't remember the last time I put deodorant on. I used to say I looked, homeless because I had a beard, but then after a while I grew a beard. But it was just like patchy and I stunk. I'd go to work, before I got fired, and people would be like, "Who farted?" Right? And I knew it was because I smell like shit. And I would just like, just to humor people, I'd just be like, "Oh, I did it," and just stealing the alcohol out of the cabinets there. I hadn't seen my kids in forever. And if I even engaged with their moms on Facebook, they'd block me. And that was like the only way I could see my kids was pictures of them with other people. And so I was kind of like, I was super lonely. But there was always this like little bit of hope, because I had gone to 12-step meetings. And there was stories there of people who were impossible. Like they were like when I heard their stories, I was like, there's no way that guy should be sober. And they always stuck with me in the back of my head. Even when I was drinking, I would talk about 12-step groups, right? Because I had got a little bit of like recovery, a few years back, where I like stayed sober for like 6-7 months. Just these little brief periods. And it was funny because I'd be out like drinking, wishing I was with those guys, right? Or if I was at the bar drinking with someone who like somehow indicated that they had alcoholism, I would like 12-step them, right? Like at the bar stool while I'm drinking. And so I really longed and had this like fantasy of like being sober. I just didn't think it was ever going to happen, because something always happened. Something always triggered me back. And, today looking back at it is I just wasn't willing to go through the pain. I wasn't willing to go through the struggle. I wasn't willing to put in the work to stay sober. I was willing, hundreds, take a lie detector test and be like, I'm gonna get sober. I'm gonna stay sober. And I bet you I could have done that every day for the last 10 years, and it would have said I was telling the truth, because I meant it. I had this desire to want to be sober. I just wasn't willing to put in the work. the hard work, right? The really painful work of, when I want to drink, actually calling someone and being honest with them that I'm thinking about drinking, or, going through the feelings in my gut where it feels like butterflies driving race cars when I think about drinking, right? I was just really feelings like driven. And so if I felt it, I just did it, right? If I felt like drinking, it just felt like really overwhelming, and I just do it and just fantasize about what it was like to take that first drink. And it always did, every single time. It was even better than what I was thinking. And it always stuck in the back of my head, if I want to feel good right now, I just got to drink. So when I was 31, I was squatting in this apartment. I hadn't showered and shaved in a long time, and it wasn't like normal for me to not shave. I wore suits to work, and I had never dry cleaned them. They smelled. I had a whole room dedicated to garbage. I was scared to take beer cans and bottles outside of people judging me. But then I'd get drunk and I'd just like whip them off my balcony, because I just felt like I was 10 feet tall and bulletproof and untouchable. And there's nothing in the world that made me feel that way. And so I was drinking with my last friend. I walked all the way from my house all the way over to his place over in Moorhead, it was probably about a 2.5 hour walk. And with the intentions of that, he had alcohol. And I had no money, no alcohol, got fired, was being evicted from this apartment I was squatting in, and had 3 days to leave the property, and just couldn't see my kids, and had no car, no license, and knew I was about to be homeless again. And so I just needed a little bit of relief, and alcohol always did that. So I walked to his house and went to his house, and we were drinking, having fun, and then he passed out, and then I robbed him. And took all the alcohol. I tried to take money out of his bank account, and just do the things that I did when I was drinking. And he was literally like my last friend. And I went back. I walked all the way back home, which was like a much easier walk after you've been drinking. And I get in the house, and then the next day, I wake up and I'm filled with anxiety, thinking about what I did the night before. Pretty typical. Just drink a couple beers, it'll go away. And then I hear a boom, boom, boom at my door, and it was his friend, and he came in, and he walked in, and he put a gun to my head and told me to give me all his stuff back, right? And I just stared at him, and the crazy thing is, this is when I knew that I had crossed this invisible threshold that between being like a normal drinker, or like even like a hard drinker, to this real alcoholic. Because one of the things he asked for was his bottle of alcohol back. And it was right in the other room in a backpack, and I had a gun to my head. And I had more fear of not having that alcohol than I did to that gun to my head. And I didn't tell him where it was at, and I told him it was gone. And he just stared at me, and then he put the gun back in his pocket, and then he walked out. And it was just like a moment of clarity that I was willing to die over a bottle, like the bottle, right? And the crazy thing is I didn't even drink it. I went and got help. And I walked down the street to this payphone that was outside, which is weird to tell people because they don't know what payphones are. And it's not there now. It was actually gone a month later, right? And so like my whole recovery is like seconds and inches. Like if I would have waited like 1 month longer and I walked by that place and that phone wouldn't be there, would I be here, right? If I wouldn't have called Andre and walked 2.5 hours, which was kind of symbolic that the last walk I did for alcohol was 2.5. My first walk for recovery was 2.5. If Andre wouldn't have answered his phone, would I be here, right? Like there's just all these scenarios that played in my head of like how close like everything worked together to be the perfect storm for me to be in recovery. And then I think about it, every single time was like that. Every time I wanted to get sober, the perfect storm was there. Why was this different? And that's a question I get asked. So every time I speak, some mom will come up to me and they're like, what was it? They want to reproduce it for their kid. I don't know. I knew that when I called and asked that guy for help, that if he answered, he would have said yes. That's the difference. I had people in my corner that no matter how many times I relapsed or how many times I I took advantage of people, or how many felonies I got, whatever. They were always there whenever I called, as long as I was willing. And every time I called, I say, hey, I need help. And they said they were on their way. And then as soon as I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do, they just stopped helping me. You know, they continued to talk to me, but they wouldn't go out of their way to make sure I had rides to work, or, you know, or a couch to sleep on or whatever, if I wasn't willing to put in the work. Right. And so I asked Andre if I could go to his house. And, you know, the thing in AA is that you could be 10 years sober and still not have a license because they took it from you, you know, like, and so he didn't have a car, so he couldn't come get me, but he told me to walk. And that was like my first test. Was like, I could have just went across the street to the bar or walked 2.5 hours to Andre's house. And I, you know, the first time ever in my life, I chose to walk. And I feel like even 10 years later now, sober, I'm still making that walk, right? There's like, you know, tons of things that I could do to just the easy way out of not having to be honest, or, you know, covering this up, or this you know, acting inappropriately, whatever, right? And there's been plenty of opportunities, but that is part of like my recovery, is that I have to act accordingly.